To order, Board of Education meeting, September 26th, 2019, 7 o'clock. Secretary, you want to take attendance?
All board members are present except for Jennifer Cook.
And before we do the pledge, can we have an amendment to the agenda?
Yes, friendly amendment to move up the special recognition to immediately after the Pledge of Allegiance and before public comment.
Second.
I have a amendment and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Item 4 will be after the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Wolf?
Stand next to you so I can Thank you, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor this evening to be able to invite Eric up here, Eric Edwards, to receive his diploma. And before we begin, Eric wanted to make sure that he extended his appreciation tonight to the Board of Education, Jennifer Perrone, our Director of Special Education, Sarah Fairman, our Director of Secondary Education, and all of those that have supported Eric along the way, not only while he was a student at Lasser, but also those that were supportive of him receiving his diploma this evening. And so a little bit about Eric before he receives his diploma. Eric enjoyed his entire high school experience at Lasser. It takes a village to create a rich experience for each student. Oh yes, thank you, Mr. Kolin. Please have a seat. Eric found his village thanks to the support of many adults. Anita Kaufman hit the target by presenting information in an easy-to-learn style. Mr. Brazel and Eric bonded over their love of music. Mac McLeod offered captivating lectures and was a wonderful football coach. Hall monitors like Grandma Bess and Mia Williams were always there to listen and provide gentle guidance. Social and guidance groups established by Randy Woodward put a circle of friends around Eric, and Deb Westman, the media specialist, helped Eric develop a positive self-image and a give-back spirit by recognizing his computer skills and nabbing him every time to help assist with computer problems in the school. Eric's passion for sports started at a young age of 6 with martial arts. During high school, he participated in football, track, and wrestling. As a wrestler, and on varsity for 2 years, Eric weighed in at a whopping 112 and then 120 pounds. Looks like he's grown a little since then. His coach's strict but encouraging approach helped Eric to learn the skills and benefits of discipline and passion. Those skills serve him very well today as he negotiates the challenges of life. Eric's experience in the culinary program through Oakland Technical Center prepared him for entry into the workforce. Chef Joe Martin, with his easygoing style, taught him the art of hot foods, and Eric expanded his knowledge by working at multiple restaurants. Recently, Eric transitioned to a new career and has found great success as a roofer. Eric is a lover of animals, the outdoors, and is most at peace in the wilderness. One of Eric's latest Facebook posts, entitled "The 12 Things to Remember," captures the essence of his outlook on life, which I'm excited to share with you this evening. 12 things to remember. Past can't be changed. Opinions don't define your reality. Everyone's journey is different. Judgments are not about you. Overthinking will lead to sadness. Happiness is found within. Your thoughts affect your mood. Smiles are contagious. Kindness is free. It's okay to let go and move on. And things always get better with time. Eric is a person who makes lemonade out of lemons. He's a defender of the underdog, a problem solver, and survivor. He is an exemplary student from Bloomfield Hills who lives the cornerstones of his education. There is no one more deserving of this honor, and it is with great pleasure that the Board of Education presents Eric with his diploma this evening. Congratulations, Eric, on a job well done.
Okay, we're going to take about a 5-10 minute adjournment to congratulate our new graduate, and then we'll reconvene our board meeting in about 10 minutes. Now it's public comment. Do we have any blue cards? You have the timer? Or,
Oh yeah, give it to me.
okay. Amelia Ascari, IA, you have 5 minutes for public comment.
It's not on.
I'll-
Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate the time with you. And I have two topics I want to talk with you today. One is about the vote that you're going to take, scheduled to take later today, about opening or closing the study sessions and the other meetings of the board committees, and also relating to the recording of those meetings. And I just want to share with you that as you know, some community members have gotten together and paid a private videographer to record several, I think 3 or 4 of your study sessions over the past 6 months or so, and 1 committee meeting, and also several of the joint steering committee meetings of the International Academy before they were here, and the most recent one was recorded here. Thank you for that. And I want to report that we have over 2,000 views on all of those videos combined, and that we have paid over in the range of about $3,000 for those recordings. And I want you to understand that there is an audience for those meetings, that people, this should be a symbol to you of how much people are interested in your work. And I think you should take it as a compliment. And I think it says a very positive thing about the community and how engaged people are and how much they really care. So I hope you will vote to record your study sessions and keep them open. I know there are some issues that you have with legal counsel on the committee meetings, but at the very least, the study sessions and your retreats are composed of everybody. All the board members are invited and present, so I hope you will consider recording them and giving greater public access. And I want to publicly offer to share the recordings that the community has made of the prior meetings and allow you to post them on your website. And then secondly, very briefly, I see so many colleagues or people I know from the International Academy in the audience tonight. And I do want to speak in support of the International Academy. And I know that there has been some consideration as some problems have arose of looking at Bloomfield Hills, the future of Bloomfield Hills' relationship with the International Academy. And I want to speak strongly in support of your continued involvement in that school. I think that it's a great idea. The International Academy is an excellent idea, and that it would be very difficult to replicate the quality of the diploma program you see at the International Academy in a single district high school. And that we should keep in mind that the IA is a magnet school that was, and magnet schools are created to address inequity issues at their core. And this district has spent a lot of time talking about equity and inclusion issues. It's important to look at that in a broader geographic regional setting and see what we can offer, what this district can offer as support for the whole region, and what you get back if your students are involved in the International Academy and the rich kind of community that draws from a wider regional base. So thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we'll go into the President's report. So just a couple things I wanted to go over. The Board of Education continues to be busy working with the national search firm Rain Associates to find our next superintendent. Just some updates. We had some great community forums on September 9th and 10th. Between the forums and the survey, we had over 1,000 participate. As of yesterday, we had 15 applications, and some of these applicants are from outside the state of Michigan. There's also quite a few applications in process, and we should have a great applicant pool to choose from ultimately. Once the date closes in October, we will have our search firm video interview selected candidates for our viewing. I will provide more details at future meetings, but please, if you have any questions or want some more details, please go to our website, www.bloomfield.org/superintendent. The board, also in conjunction with our administration, operations group, and a scope and design task force, has started discussing our facility needs, which started this past Monday. The first topic was safety and security. The next discussion will be regarding building configurations. The goal ultimately is to make sure our buildings meets the needs of our community and at the same time be as efficient as possible. Tonight I will be giving an update on our student on the board intern position, which we're all excited about, and our instructional chair, Jackie, will give an update on one of the new mental health initiatives, Prepare You. My final comment is we want to congratulate our interim superintendent, Tina Kostiuk, who's not here today on my left, because her son and daughter-in-law are currently, or will be, getting married on Saturday. And that's the president's report. I hand it over, and Todd will give the interim superintendent's report.
Yep, we've had a great start to the school year, and we've had a very busy September. And probably one of my highlights that I've had the opportunity to sit in on is a partnership that's developing between Bloomfield Hills and the National Equity Project. We are extremely excited for the type of information and the dialogue and the discourse that was in the room that day, and we're looking forward to developing that partnership as we look to really instill and embed some of those practices that through their mentorship we believe that we can really highlight and move some of those things into practice. Another one is, we've had several curriculum nights, conferences have been underway. In fact, I think maybe a building has a set of conferences this evening. So it's been an active September, as well as we just had a great meeting Monday as we launched the scope and design team. We have several topics that we're going to be covering, everything from building configurations, safety and security, instructional and support spaces, unique and specialized programming, even shared community spaces. So we'll be spending the next several weeks together trying to go through those different lenses in terms of looking at that master facility recommendation that we're trying to put together. In addition to that, the topic for Monday was specifically on safety and security, and we had the opportunity to dig into various designs to enhance school safety, as well as looking at the balance between that and social emotional wellness and how design really can contribute to that overall mental wellness within a school and how important that is in some of those design features. So it was a great meeting. We've been hearing good feedback about that, and we're looking forward to our next session as we dig into another component. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Todd. With that, we'll go to consent agenda. Lisa?
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendations detailed in the consent agenda as follows. Request to approve minutes of a study session, August 8th, a regular meeting, August 13th, a special retreat, August 14th, a study session, September 12th, request to approve winter tax levy, request to approve disbursement reports, request to approve vehicle purchase, request to approve HR actions as attached.
Support?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Like to make comments, or?
Yes.
Just wanted to point out to the board that one of the new employees on the HR actions is Rebecca Catherine Chia. And Rebecca is going to be the new executive assistant to the superintendent. And this person obviously is a very close relationship with the board and assists the board in many, many actions. Miss Catherine Chia has been the executive assistant to Bob Moore, who is the CFO of Oakland Schools. And Trustee Van Ooyen and I have gotten to know her over the many years that we've been working with Oakland Schools. So I think this is a great addition to the district. Not only Ms. Catherine Chia, but also her son Dominic will be coming to our schools and attending Bloomfield Hills schools, I think starting in the next week or so. So welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks, Howard. Any other comments? All those in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent passes. General discussion. Mark, report of FFLA.
Well, good news and bad news. Good news is that the packet we received on Sunday by way of email had the minutes of FFLA in it, which had a very detailed report. And the good news is I have my notes with me. The bad news is my glasses are sitting in my briefcase on my desk in my office. So at the risk of repeating that which everybody already read and not being able to read my own handwriting, I'll do my best to bring everybody up to date. It was a fairly short FFLA meeting that we had back on the 12th. The first part was a report by Kelly regarding human resources and personnel matters. She reported that there were 52 new positions for this year, but that's kind of a misleading number, that there were really 11 new positions. There were a lot of other positions that were filled due to retirements. A lot of other positions were backfilled. For example, when Jessica Lapone moved up, her position needed to be filled. And there was also restoration of positions that were previously eliminated at the end of last year and then restored this year, depending on numbers. Overall, there were 32 new teachers to the district this year. The second report was from Brian Goby, who presented regarding this summer's sinking fund expenditures. He reported there's about $1.6 million of expenditures he anticipates without contingency or professional fees. They're going to be at a myriad of facilities around the district. Just to highlight a few, the high school, while everybody thinks of it as new, it's really only 70% new, and the former math and science wing on the west side of the building is old and not a lot was done there. So the AC units that are there need replacing. Several of the cooling units there are at the end of their lifespan. Some of the windows there, particularly if you think back in the math rooms where the kind of windows, the roof goes up on an arc and then the other part doesn't quite meet it and there's some windows. Those windows in there need to be addressed due to some leak problems. Brian then brought up a subject that, if he's listening, he knows that I disagree with, but it looks like it's planning on going forward. Anybody who's driving south on Franklin Road toward Long Lake looks at the building and wonders why there's new brick on the left side and old brick on the right side, and a lot of people cringe when they see it. And he has there for everyone's approval whether or not we're going to make the bricks match with paint or other process. I personally remain opposed to that, and without sounding facetious, that it should be a reminder to the district that we only replaced 70% of the building. But that's my personal point of view. I'll stop with the editorials. At the Losser building, or Losser facility, no longer a full building over there, the track hasn't been touched in 12 years, and it needs to be resurfaced. Relative to the dugouts over at the Losser athletic fields, the dugouts in the softball field are going to be replaced. In the high school, there's been a problem with the speakers in the building, that they're inaudible in the commons area, and for safety announcements, they have to rethink how the speakers are done and reconfigure that. There's some issues with parking lots, but Brian just brought that to our attention, but he's going to defer on that to wait and see what happens with the facilities project that we're going through, to see if it pays to repair or replace, or see what the long-term plan is. And relative to this building, there's been a recommendation from the fire marshal to address the fire panels here, and also there was some discussion about putting in the Blue Point announcement system here, because there is no PA system in this building. The last part of my notes, Tina brought to our attention, and this was interesting, that for outside events, people are permitted to bring alcohol into the nature center, the farm, and into this building. There's a whole set of paperwork, insurances, and assurances that have to be provided to do that. But the question came up, would we ever permit that at the high school? And there's a lot of competing, moral values there, but there are also some other questions. And one was, well, what if the foundation wanted to have their event there and serve alcohol? Would that be permitted? And that's something that's being looked into. That was FFLA in a nutshell.
Thank you.
I just want to add a couple things from FFLA. The first is all the projects that Brian is working on with the sinking fund dollars are projects specifically chosen so that regardless of where we go with the facilities, these are things that need to be done anyway. Regarding the matching brick, I don't have an opinion either way, but there were brick repairs that had to be made, so it's not purely an aesthetic improvement.
That's right. There was something technical
Yeah.
called tuck
I don't know,
pointing.
what was it?
Tuck pointing.
Tuck
You have
pointing.
to tuck point.
There was
I
tuck
don't know what that
pointing,
is.
and of the 125,000 that was proposed, 20,000 was for the tuck pointing, and about 105,000 was
Okay.
for the staining. So,
All right, any other, Cynthia?
Just regarding the use of alcohol in any of our facilities. So we'd still have board policy that says no use of alcohol on our premises, but we, with permission of the superintendent, those specific sites were allowed to be under consideration. So this would be adding the high school potentially to that list that has now the nature center and the farm, potentially. So that was, I'm just be sure that we still have a policy that we do not want alcohol on our grounds.
I stated it,
I
but
think there
yes.
are at least 3 hurdles. You have to get the superintendent's permission, you have to have a liquor license, and
Right.
you have to have the proper insurance.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Thanks, Mark. Report of Board Instructional Committee, Jackie?
Yes, we held a meeting on September 16, 2019 at the high school. And the first item was a presentation by the Muslim Student Association of our high schools making a request to add the first day of Eid as a day off in our district. It's been 33 years since the Eid al-Fitr holiday has been during the school time. It's been during the summer most recently. And so there are already districts in Michigan, and the most recent one is Detroit, that had added the Eid al-Fitr day to one of the days off. They gave an excellent presentation to explain this follows Ramadan, so it's not Ramadan, it's only the day, which is the breaking of the fast, where families come together, maybe from overseas, and there is a mandatory prayer in the morning that everybody goes to their center. And so 8% of our students are absent this year during that holiday. So they described some, and the board members there, Cynthia, Jennifer, and myself, we were able to ask questions and understand how it's difficult for them to combine their Bloomfield Hills identity and their family cultural identity due to this. And so Jennifer gave some examples of growing up and not having her holiday off, and we all discussed it, the board instructional committee, and we asked that this topic be investigated further by the calendar bargaining team, because it would be a part, and they would bring back some recommendation to us. But we saw that that we understood the importance of considering this, and I think other districts before us have it well, and that's why this year's particularly they added it. And so the second item, Jenna, is on Prepare You pilot of curriculum, and it was presented by Margaret Schultz, David Reed Norwell, and Angie Lewis. And so I think it's not a secret. It's been very clear that students both in K-12 and in higher ed have had increasingly struggles with mental health and healthy thinking choices. And this program is a full curriculum to be added to the students' health class. So not only then would there be a physical, currently students have curricula about physical health, but this would add mental health topics to the health curricula. It aligns with our current teaching style. It's inquiry and student driven. Prepare You, there is a website, www.prepareu, live, U is just a U, so it's prepareu.live, and I've looked it over. They showed us some of the curricula, and it's constantly being updated. West Bloomfield has already added this curricula and have had, I think, for the last 3 years, and they've had good success. And it isn't about necessarily issues or illnesses, although that is touched upon. It's really about healthy thinking choices and understanding how your brain works and how, like, for example, you can take control of the narrative, or maybe coping skills when you have anxiety, and those really real health things that would be great for students to have and be able to understand. It's also, it's layered. So in the curriculum, if you go to the website, it does have actually the curricula, and then there are videos that the students will view, and then there will be facilitation by the teachers. But there also are, there is also supporting facilitation curricula, if you will, for teachers, and also for parents, so that together they can really have those discussions. And even though the students might be having this in their health classes, the other teachers in the cohort would also be able to have access to this curricula, so they can understand what the students are learning at the time. And this year we're adding Prepare You to Bowers and the ELA curricula. And also, it'll come to me here, but we're also adding it to ninth graders. So basically, we're starting with ninth grade now. And then as the students go forward, they will continuously have access to this. There are over 300 psychologists that have assisted in preparing this. It consists of 15 classes. It also includes our social and emotional health, for example, using circle time for restorative practices. Counselors will be prepared to handle anything that surfaces and also be involved in the training. And let's see, as part of the package, they negotiated that as I mentioned, the parents themselves could also have access. Let's see. And so we discussed it, and we thought, after looking at the curricula, we thought this was just a great add to our curriculum. This year, we'll be adding it selectively in education, or curriculum, we call it a pilot. But it's starting small, so we can see how it goes, and then we can manage and learn, and then we can scale it as we learn more. The board members were just very, very supportive of this effort, and we thanked everyone who's been involved. We also thought that there are 15 administrative access as well, and we said, well, could also the board also have access to this, because we are actually the people that often are talking to the community, and so it'd be good for us to understand as well the curricula and be able to share that experience. So I think that the board, we were just very pleased. We felt that we are very proud that Bloomfield Hills Schools is really at the forefront of providing this to our students. And we even discussed potentially developing some type of resolution encouraging other school boards and other schools to also incorporate this into their curriculum. Okay, and that was the board instruction committee.
Thanks, Jackie. That was good. Discussion? Howard? Oh. Howard,
Jackie, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. On the Eid holiday issue.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you talked about any or solicited any input from Michigan Department of Education for any guidance on how, if there is any state law or any policies out of MDE on this kind of an issue.
Actually, what we did is we listened to the students, and then we asked the collective bargaining unit to explore it and bring back that type of recommendation. So we ourselves did not do that, but we asked it for the collective, and so they'll be working on
I can
it.
see Phil there. Yeah, so I had heard a number of years ago that there are some guidelines based upon student populations.
Yeah,
that
I'm
are
not sure
affected
it's
by
correct
certain-
anymore.
Well-
So they're going to update us on
Well,
that.
so yeah, if
Yeah.
the bargaining group and the administration can research that and let us know,
Yeah,
that would be
they're
very,
going to.
very important to me to know what other districts have done based on what MDE and the law says.
Right, and one of the things I did mention is that there are more and more districts this year. I think it's because Eid is coming into now the school year because it's on a lunar calendar, and so like Detroit was the most recent one that that made Eid a holiday this year. So, but they'll be providing us with that information and bringing it back to us.
Very good.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
they'll be looking at the data and all of that. We have a good team there.
Cynthia?
So in addition to that, I think the other thing is, we were discussing with our staff was the issue of our number of instructional days and how this is, because we are butting up against the number of instructional days and/or hours, and so that will have to be under consideration too as part of this discussion. How does it work? So, yeah, so yes, there's always been a certain if a certain number of students are going to be out for a religious holiday, then whether it can be counted as an instructional day. And so all of that will need to be part of that conversation.
And over the next few years, many districts in the state are looking at a balanced calendar, which would rearrange a lot of the vacation days also. So that's another thing that can come into the mix. It's not going to happen anytime soon for us, but it is something that's on the list of things to look at in the future.
And the other thing I wanted to mention about the Prepare You, I think one of the things that we really liked about it was because it would make it also available to have supportive materials for parents, for families, so that if kids are being opened up in some issues during their curriculum and in their health, that the parents, we know that this is what's the topic at this point, and be ready to engage with their students and understand what's going on, and it may provide a better, richer conversation at home.
That's true, but and so we do have the counselors, they will be engaged, but I want to really stress that some of these are just practices that if we all learn these earlier in life, we could practice them, and we know that, for example, we should have a coping skill for this, right? And so just being able to voice this and talk about it and understand how you speak to yourself, you can really make us healthier mentally, and which really makes us be more successful and have a happier life, right? And so it's not just if an illness, it's really about really truly understanding and talking and surfacing how do we engage ourselves, and how do we maintain our own mental health. And so having students learn that, I think we all agree, that's just a fantastic ad that our staff has been working on.
I had an opportunity to tour a district that has implemented this program, and it is exactly what you just described. It's comprehensive. So, it may be X amount of hours or a portion of a health class, or it may be certain things that can be incorporated that way, but it's so much more than that. So my question is, have we talked about how it's going to be available for, students at like magnet schools like the IA, students at maybe, is there plans to incorporate it in middle schools? I know they have specific middle school curriculum. Is it piloting this year with
Ninth
the
grade
goal
only.
being to, okay.
It's only 9th grade this year. I did look at it, and the curriculum really says 8 to 12, 8th grade to 12th grade. But I did ask that because I was saying that, 8th grade seems like it would be a great time to learn before they get to 9th grade and move into the high school. That seems like a very stressful year, right? And so be able to really have that. And so they said they would look into that. And the idea is eventually to have it fully 8 through 12. This curriculum is definitely based on that level. Currently, I'm not aware that there is curricula like this, but we did talk about it'd be great to align with our K through 7 as well. But currently, when I looked at the site, it really says 8 to 12. It isn't developed for elementary kids. Do you have anything to add on that, Todd?
No, I think that was a pretty good description. The researchers that are putting this together are first looking at high school. They're exploring more of a middle school option, but that hasn't been developed by this particular organization.
But we're just really, really proud that that our staff really have taken this on, and it's so proactive, right? It's just so proactive, and it's the right thing to do. So we look forward to see the results.
And will it be available for the IA? Do we know?
I don't know that at this time. Right now, we're piloting it. So with a pilot, it's smaller, right? And then once they see the pilot, then they see how can they expand it. So I don't know necessarily if those decisions have been fully.
Well, again, the IA, would that be the decision of the Joint Steering Committee and the principal? That really is not our call.
All right, any other discussion points? Thank you,
No.
Thank you, Jackie. With that, report of the Board Policy Committee, Cynthia?
So the policy committee hasn't met yet. We finally this evening got a date on the calendar next week to discuss. We, at our board retreat on the 12th, did discuss a couple of items at length, and one was our committees, which we will now be consistent with our board policy. And the other was the issue of videotaping, and at this point, we don't have consensus, and the board will continue to discuss it in committee.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? All right, student intern update. So I'm just going to give an update of kind of where we are and maybe summarize a little bit the past. So last spring, the board worked together to put together some criteria for an application process. So we had a 1 or 2 pager. Over the summer, the board worked with administration at the high school to design the application process. The administration at the high school rolled out the process during the first week of school. The board received a number of candidates. The candidate pool was limited to juniors and seniors and needed to have sign-off by the administration and the candidates' guardians. The board and high school administration were provided all the application in order to provide feedback and narrow down the field. I personally met with Tina to go over the applicants and determine the strategy to potentially provide more opportunities for student voice. So we have a very excellent candidate pool. I shared that with my colleagues in one of my emails this week. The feedback from high school administration, educators, and board members were provided this week. The feedback determined which students would move forward to be interviewed. The administration at the high school felt the interviews needed to be expedited to this Friday because next week is homecoming week for the students. It was going to be next week, but homecoming students have a lot going on. Recommendations will be made to the entire board at our 10/10 board meeting, with the intern potentially being voted upon at our 10/25 board meeting. Questions, discussions?
I had an opportunity to read some of the applications and specifically their longer answer, and I'm really excited. This is going to be such a great intern position addition to our board, and I'm thrilled.
Yeah, the applicant pool was very good. And
outstanding.
Yep.
We'd be lucky to have any of them.
Ask you a question?
Sure.
So the timing now, we would not make a final decision till the end of October, which means this person or this student would start sometime in November. And if it is and this is a 1-year position, I believe. So therefore, we would go through this again, even if it's a junior, we would go through it again next year, correct?
We'd probably have it a little bit, have the process start a little bit
Well,
earlier.
and that's my point,
Yep.
is that because the school year is pretty limited in, 8 or 9 months, and we're already losing 2 months through the selection process. Has it been thought about to see whether we can accelerate it for next year such that we can have the student hit the ground running a little earlier in the school year?
I mean, this is a new process.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a good question, valid point, and the answer would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that, we can go to board business. First on the agenda is to request to approve a change of a meeting schedule.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there is item 6E.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw my name twice, sorry. I overlooked that. Yes, 2019-2020 board goals. So the board goals, and obviously I know we're in the midst of a superintendent search, so a lot of goals is centered around some of the things that we're working on. So I've drafted with your input what would be the 5 goals that we would be looking at, probably anywhere from the next 6 to 9 months. Some of these may change when we have a new superintendent in place, but obviously the first goal would be identify and hire a new superintendent. Second one, develop board operating procedures, including board governance. Third would be to finalize our Board of Education policies, and I know we're working on, there's some things that we need to look at in the parking lot. Fourth would be approve recommended scope and design for a bond initiative. And the 5th would be to pass a resolution for a bond millage proposal. So those are the 5 things that, based on feedback from my colleagues here at the table, that we would look at, discuss now, and then vote on at a subsequent board meeting. Cynthia?
So I guess, in my mind, we're never finished with board policy. It's always changing. We get things that come from the state. And so I guess I would say finalize updating our board policy, because we're never finished. That would be one thing I would say about that, because to me, that's an ongoing process. And then I guess number 5, I would say pass and support a resolution for a bond millage proposal, because passing the resolution is just the beginning of advocacy, and we as board members, if we want to pass a resolution, we ought to spend the next several months working on it and supporting it.
Thanks, Cynthia. This will be updated. Howard?
Yeah. A few comments. Item number 2, develop board policy, operating policies, including board governance. I mean, we had, some extensive conversation at our board retreat related to board governance and the next steps we were going to follow. At our board retreat, we had a recommendation from the consultant who were with us about a book that was published this year, and the district was very generous to get us all copies of it, the Governance Core, and one of the authors of it is Michael Kolin, who I think we were all familiar with, related to a wonderful book he wrote 3 years ago called Coherence. And what this Governance Core does is it kind of is an addendum to this Coherence book, because the Coherence book is really a lot about the classrooms and the kind of work that Todd works on, but it really was lacking in detail of what the superintendent and the board does, the governance piece of it. So what this new book does is really fill in those blanks and talks about how you take the coherence concepts and apply it to what we do for a living and what the superintendent does for a living in relating to us. So I would like to make an amendment to number 2, which says develop board operating policies, including board governance, and I would like to amend it to say, after reading and discussing the book, the Governance Core.
Thanks for the input.
I think we can all agree to do that because we are all given the book. I think it kind of makes the goal kind of long. I like the brevity of this, but I think that it would make perfect sense to do that. I just wouldn't want, I don't personally support like amending the actual verbiage, but I understand what you mean. It's
as long as
important.
we all sort of have head nods here that we're going to read it
Yeah.
and then have some study sessions about it, because the policy committee is going to work on the board operating policies. I think Jennifer has very generously volunteered to take over where Ingrid left off, but I think that having some discussion as a study session over the next few months when we have some time, obviously, and have time, it's about a 150-page book, to talk about some of the concepts in here and see whether we agree with them or not, because it will be great advice and information for the policy committee to craft any BOPs that we're going to be working on.
Cynthia?
I actually think, I haven't finished reading it, I've read about half of it, but my suggestion is that we use it as a study guide for team building with our new superintendent, because it does really talk about the roles of the board and the superintendent, and as we are working together and building our new team with that person, I think it makes sense to have dialogue together with that person.
I would even I see your suggestion and raise it in terms of, I would very strongly suggest that we talk to Ray and Associates and see whether the prospective candidates could read this book or at least be familiar with it prior to the interviews, and seeing whether they agree with some of these concepts. Because if we're going to be an operating organization effectively, we need to be a team of 8. And it's just not us, but it's also the superintendent who has to buy in to some of these concepts, because if not, then obviously we're going to have some issues.
I think that's a good idea. Now that I kind of put, like, I'm a certified strategic planner, so I'm putting that hat on. So I just want to say that I think what we're talking about now, you know how there are goals, objectives, and activities? We're kind of talking about the activity part, like how are we going to do these goals? And I think what we want to approve today are the goals, and then
we can come up with those activities, right? Of how to actually execute on those goals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to include any verbiage in our board goals that includes mandatory reading of any book, because I think it's up to us as a board to develop our own thoughts and ideas, and certainly we can rely on any book, this one or others. There's hundreds and thousands of books on board governance out there. So before we adapt any written policy, making any particular book mandatory for a potential candidate or for us to read, I think that, you know, we have to at least be open to the idea that there's several other sources out there, or none. We create our own even.
Well, I put the resolution or the amendment forward, and I can retract it, but based on what Jackie said in terms of, and again, we did, before you were on the board, Lisa, we did have a reading assignment out of Rob to read the coherence book, and we had some discussions about it
I don't have a
afterwards.
problem with the book club
Yeah.
part
So-
of it. That's fine, or
Yeah.
the reading assignment part. I don't like making it a mandatory part of our work. I also want to say too, for anybody that wonders like where these came from, these came out of a public meeting, which was our retreat. And what I thought was so interesting was everybody sort of created their own list of board goals, and then we got them together in a stack. We ripped paper and put them together in categories, and I was kind of surprised that we basically had this same set of goals, even without reading a book or talking about it or whatever. You know, we were surprisingly on the same page with the goal. So creating a list of 5 was fairly easy to do. I thought this was going to be a long process with a lot of back and forth discussion. I was really surprised at how easy it came about. So, you know, if anyone's watching in 2,000 whatever people that might one day watch this wonder how we all of a sudden came up with a list without talking about it at previous meetings, it did happen that quickly, surprisingly.
Anyway, I will rescind my amendment, but as long as we are open to having, as we're going through roles and responsibilities, discussions, as we talked about at the retreat, that we have some study sessions where we talk about governance. Thank
And
you.
I would say these are really hefty goals. I mean, it seems like they're short and neat, but if you really think about the magnitude of these 5 goals, I mean, identify and hire a new superintendent, develop board operating procedures, finalize and updated a board educational policies, approve recommended scope and design for a bond initiative, and pass a resolution for a bond millage proposal. I mean, those are really hefty, meaty goals, and so I think that it's a very ambitious, but very meaningful, and I think we're up to this challenge. But these are not trivial goals. These are really important goals.
Far from it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of work involved, obviously, in just one. A lot of work involved that, you know, Todd and various board members here are doing for 4 and 5. And then we have Cynthia, Cynthia, Howard, and Lisa working on 2 and 3 in conjunction with Jennifer. So yes, it's a lot of work that we're spending a significant amount of work doing these 5 goals. And so I will, I'll get to you in a second, Howard. So I'll just update this with the little tweaks. We discussed it, and then for our next meeting on the 10th, we'll vote on it. Howard?
I have some additional amendments. I want to defer to my partners here if they have any other thoughts before I throw something else on the table.
Mark, you have any? Okay. No?
Okay. A few things. Well, the strategic plan is still a draft. And there were some pieces that needed to be discussed by the board and the new superintendent before we finalized it. But I think that considering these are goals between now and basically June of 2020, that we consider adding a goal of finalizing the strategic plan so we can take that word draft off and actually have a 5-year or 3 or 5 year, whatever it is, strategic plan. And not to make it 6 goals, therefore, maybe consider we can consolidate number 4 and number 5, which are both related to the bond, and possibly even consolidate 2 and 3 because they're both related to policies and procedures. So I think we can get it down to, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 goals, which is combining 2 and 3, combining 4 and 5. Potentially we can wordsmith it, and then adding the strategic plan on, which I think is critical, that we take what we did over the summer of 2019 or 2018 and actually put a, lock that in with a strategic plan finalization.
With the new superintendent in
Absolutely,
place.
positively.
Yeah, I would just say on the timeline of that, so if we bring a new superintendent in January, the first thing the new superintendent is going to be learning all about us and also doing like a listening tour and talking to everyone. So I think it's pretty ambitious to think that this new superintendent would be able to be ready to do that by June. I think really it's better, I mean, not that they won't be working on it, but to finalize it, just think about how much work it is to come in and learn and then listen to everyone. That's gonna take 6 months, basically. And so after that, I think then they're prepared to start to work on the goals. So I think it's really important, and I don't wanna minimize it, but at the same time, I think that we need to really allow the new superintendent to acclimatize themselves before asking them on such a hefty thing, to do such a hefty thing.
We just asked Todd then, as representing the superintendent, is there any concern with having the strategic plan in a draft form for another year?
I don't personally, so I'm not going to speak on Tina's behalf, but I don't personally have a concern with the word draft being on it. We are operationalizing what's in the strategic plan. We would be doing that. Work continues to move on, whether or not that is adopted by the board or not in an official manner. So the language that's in there, we were able to come out of the strategic planning process with language that we felt that we would be able to advance and do good work around. And that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, great. I'm fine with that then.
And I would also say that I think that not having it in draft form, but having the superintendent know that when they come in, they will be able to be a part of it, I think that makes it even more attractive than saying, here, do this, or even shorten.
And I wasn't saying at all finalize it by the end
Yeah.
of the year, but by 6 months, but you're saying even 6 months
Yeah,
might
I
not
think
be
that's
enough.
pretty ambitious
Okay,
to
so
think
maybe it'll
about
be
what they
like
have to
third
do.
quarter of next year.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
very good, thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you. Board business, request to approve.
Do we want to actually vote on that, or are we voting on that next meeting?
No, we're going to discuss it next time. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit, and the next time we'll vote.
Got it, thank you, sir.
Board business, request to approve regular board meeting schedule change. Have a motion? Or can you read it? It's cut off, but I think you know what it
I'll
is.
do my best. I move that the board meeting schedule be changed to move the Thursday, November 21st, 2019 meeting to Wednesday, November 20th, 2019 at 7 p.m.
Support? Support? Discussion?
There was a little confusion, unfortunately, with this. The day, Wednesday, November 20th, there is a Oakland County School Board Association dinner that evening that is about opioids, prescription drugs, and vaping at 6 to 8 o'clock. And obviously, these are very important topics in what's going on right now in society. I just heard that there was a report that more people are dying from vaping right now, and obviously for
I know
children.
there's been a lot of programs in our high school
Yeah.
that we could attend on vaping.
So unfortunately, there was some communication saying that that Wednesday date was acceptable. I understand that Mr. Bank has a conflict on the Thursday, and that's when we're going to be, I think, finalizing the superintendent decision. Is the reason why those dates have to be so closely matched, put together? Monday and Tuesday, I think, are the final interviews, and then Wednesday is the decision. Or it was Thursday, now it's going to be Wednesday. Is the reason for that because Ray and Associates are physically here, and we want to make sure that we do it all together? Is that the reason? I know why we're moving from Thursday to Wednesday.
When it first came to my attention, when Trustee Bank sent it, I sent it around. I got feedback that it was all positive. We moved it. If it would have been brought to my attention at that time,
I did not
had the
realize.
meeting.
I think it was just added to the pink sheet
Yeah.
later. I'm assuming it was not on my account. I don't know for a fact, but I'm assuming it was not on the pink sheet, and it looked clear, but then that got added. I mean, is there a problem with deferring it to like a few days after that, either
Yeah,
Friday.
because then we have to fly in Ray and
Well,
Associates.
Yeah.
well, right
All the
now,
costs.
well, Ray and Associates, the current schedule has Monday, Tuesday is Ray, and then Thursday, the final decision. And I think the reason we're moving from Thursday to Wednesday is
Are you
for Mr.
saying
Bank.
that you'd prefer to go to that meeting on the 20th? Is that why? I mean, do I need to table this and
Well, I'm
we
trying
look at
to
dates?
have my cake and eat it too. I'm trying to do, they're both important things, I think.
But there is a cost
I
to
would like
deferring it to the next week.
Participate in the vote on the new superintendent.
Oh, absolutely. Positive. And that's why I'm saying, well, let me ask, is Ray and Associates, all right, the current schedule, which is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, irrespective of Mr. Bank, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, which was the original agreement that we had 2 or 3 months ago, was Ray and Associates going to stick around for Wednesday and then, or were they going to fly home and then fly back?
I ran this by Ray and Associates.
Right.
Like everything that we've done to come to this, what's on the agenda, has been run by the board.
I understand.
Ray and Associates.
Right.
All parties way in advance. so we
And
can
I
put it on there.
apologize that I made a mistake. I did not realize, based on the, I think upon the pink sheet, that there was an event on Wednesday night. That's my fault. I take that upon myself.
The original schedule wasn't Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. It was actually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I
Yes,
pointed
that's
out
right.
the conflict that I have that I can't change, everybody was kind enough at Ray and Associates to move everything to Monday, Tuesday, potentially Wednesday.
So Wednesday was always going to be on the schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but we are fine, we're now just moving that Thursday to Wednesday, even though you're saying we agreed to it, and we just never actually did the formality of moving it
I
on the
think it
official
would, my
dates.
personal opinion, I think it would be hard at this point to try to rearrange with Ray and for
Okay.
that. I'd ask if you could potentially possibly be here on that Wednesday.
Oh, I definitely will be here.
So this is
It's just
really
I would
moving
love to go to
Thursday
that
to
event
Monday.
too, that's all. But
Yeah,
if it can't be done, it can't be
Tuesday
done.
and Wednesday aren't changing, but we're moving
Thursday to Monday, yes.
I'm sorry.
Maybe it's videotaped and you can watch it.
I don't think they are. I'm sorry, Jackie, what were we saying?
You know, since it originally was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Right.
we're not moving Tuesday or Wednesday, we're just moving the Thursday to Monday.
All right, any more discussion on this? So I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting date changed. B, request to approve voting delegates for the 2019 MASB Delegate Assembly. Do I have a motion?
I move that board members Howard Barron and Cynthia Von Oyen be appointed as voting delegates for the Michigan Associated School Board's 2019 Delegate Assembly on Thursday, November 1st, 2019.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'd like to do an amendment to that. Unfortunately, the dates there are incorrect based upon the current schedule.
Oh.
It is not going to be November, let me look at the dates here. It is not, the date is, the delegate assembly is on Friday night, November 8th.
So I amend my motion to reflect what Howard just said of Friday, November
It's November 8th. Yes.
November
We'll-
8th.
Okay. 8th.
We'll make an amendment
I
to do
amend my
that.
second.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Closing comments, and then move for adjournment. Thank you.